Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Sarah Taysir. I'm a pediatrics and neonatology specialist and healthcare consultant on MedSynapse medical platform. Today, I'm very happy to have, for the second time, Dr. Lamia Oushy as my dear guest. Dr. Lamia is a public health expert and medical supervisor. Hello, Dr. Lamia.
Hello, Sarah, and thank you so much for having me the second time about. I really enjoyed our last podcast, and I really enjoyed being on the platform, and I'm looking forward to this podcast.
Thank you. So today we're going to talk about a very exciting topic, which is preventive medicine in the workplace. So I would like to start by knowing from you what's the importance of preventive medicine in the workplace.
Well, Sarah, preventive medicine is extremely important, not only in the workplace, but in all different settings, starting from clinics, hospitals, homes, schools, and particularly in the workplace, because a lot of people just focus on going to their workplace to do their work and then go home. And they spend a large portion of their day at their workplace. And because they're focused on work, sometimes they don't take care of what they eat, how long they're sitting down, and what they're exposing their body to. And I think this is our role as, medical supervisors and medical directors in the workplace, in different workplaces, to promote that and advocate for that, to prevent long-term disease and long-term illness, to prevent musculoskeletal disorders, and to focus on some of the issues and the health issues that our employees could face throughout, the long hours of being at work.
Can't agree more with you. So how does preventive medicine contribute to overall employee well-being and productivity?
Absolutely. So preventive medicine, just by making sure that our workforce, they're healthy and we are preventing chronic illnesses, it really contributes directly to the overall well-being by increasing the productivity of the employees at work, increasing their engagement, decreasing absenteeism and presenteeism, increasing the innovation, and making sure that the workplace culture and the organization culture is positive and is health driven.
And I want to know from you, because some might not know what is exactly preventive medicine. So can you just define this word preventive medicine? What does it mean exactly?
Sure. So preventive medicine is promoting health and well-being to prevent illnesses, diseases, disability, and death. That's the main definition of preventive medicine. And that could take so many different forms. It could be by increasing awareness, educating employees, by conducting routine checkups and regular screenings at the workplace, mass vaccination of our employees, including all types of vaccinations. And by vaccination here, I'm not only focusing on flu vaccine or the seasonal flu vaccine. I would also like to target certain, age groups and certain high-risk groups, like those that are at exposed risk of shingles, or, and we want to make sure that we target this population. On the long run, we can advocate for certain vaccines like human papillomavirus vaccine. All these things could really help down the line to prevent certain diseases and certain cancers when the population is older.
Yes, definitely. So, and what are the economic benefits for business investing in preventive healthcare programs?
Well, basically, the main economic benefit is by reduction in chronic diseases. And one research showed that a 20% reduction in cardiovascular diseases and chronic diseases results in 0.3% boost in the GDP within a 5-year plan. So there are a lot of benefits associated with that. And from the ground experience, there would be a huge reduction in, if we target those groups such as chronic diseases like hypertension and diabetes, eventually the company will have a reduction in medication expenses, and reduction in doctor's visits, and reductions in regular labs and screenings. So that will eventually reduce the burden on the healthcare expenditures for the workplace.
And from your own experience, what are the most common health risks employees face in today's workplace?
Oh, there's several risks starting from, but I wouldn't really, because now we're seeing a lot of development in the health and safety perspective. So I'm seeing a lot of corporates and companies, they're doing the best they possibly can to take care of their employees. And we are seeing a reduction, the workplace accidents, slips and falls, and because they tackle all the risk hazards and they work on that. But from what I'm seeing now is chronic diseases, and mostly, especially in the Egyptian population, it's chronic diseases, metabolic syndrome, diabetes and hypertension. And now with the major shortage of medication that we're seeing globally, and particularly in our region, this has led to an increase in the medication prices, because a lot of medication are scarce at the moment. So this is a reminder that we need to find alternatives. And in that case, we should design programs that prevent people from developing chronic diseases and metabolic syndrome.
Yes. And how do you think the workplace can support the employees who have chronic illness or chronic conditions?
I believe it's by education, raising awareness, having regular screenings, maybe having an on-site clinic, bringing in providers to teach people through nutrition education, through health education. You have a lot of diabetics that are on long-term medication that don't even know, the carbohydrate insulin ratio. They can't calculate that. They need to learn about, what to take and what kind of food to eat and when to take their medication. I think a big part of that has to do with education. So when we educate and empower the employee, this will improve the compliance, and it will improve, the outcome of the medication, and eventually will lead to reduction in the increased rates of metabolic syndrome.
And how do employees can play a role in preventing and managing the disease?
I believe employers really need to have as many intervention programs as possible by conducting surveys to kind of tell or identify where the risk is, and identify their high risk groups, low risk groups, and moderate risk groups, and design specifically tailored programs for each of those groups, starting from chronic diseases and also mental health, because this is something it's extremely important, and everybody's talking about mental health nowadays, and we know the impact of mental health, but we can't really measure it. And I'm seeing a lot of employees, their hemoglobin A1C levels are not going down, even though they eat well, they take their medication, they're doing everything they possibly can. But then when you start to get to know more, you realize that they're struggling with something, their mental health is jeopardized. And when you start to address that, mental health, it causes a lot of pressure on people, and it could really impact their health in a very
some people
manner.
are normal and they don't have any sickness or illness, but all of a sudden they develop diabetes or hypertension where they don't have any history of any previous attacks. And when you dig down deeper, you find out that it happened because of the stress of the work stress.
Absolutely. And it's stress, and some people, not necessarily it's work related. Some people are struggling with other issues, it could be a family issues, it could be, so many other things going on, but we just need to educate people and empower them to identify any mental health issues that they can come up and speak about it, to know, because honestly, we cannot change stressful situations. Stress is all around us, from our commute to work and family issues. But what we can work on is changing our mindset and how we receive those stressors. And how we not let them impact our health in a negative manner. And I believe employers can do that by training their employees, conducting regular mental health sessions and regular mental health awareness, to train and educate people on how to manage stress.
And even to tell them that they have to speak up if they are in stress, or they feel that they're not they're overloaded from work, or they have any issue, because sometimes we as persons, we don't like to to share how stressed we are. We don't like to go to psychiatrists and psychologists. So it's important to educate people that this is normal and this is an illness like any other physical illness.
Absolutely. And I believe this is the employer's role
Yeah.
in changing that mindset. And I think taking this back to the mental health issue,
Mhm.
maybe a few years ago, maybe a decade or two ago, overworking was portrayed as a very positive thing, right?
Yes.
Where people, it was, back in the day or a couple of years back, people who were workaholics, who overworked, who sacrificed their family time and their work-life balance to focus on work were applauded,
Yeah.
and they were looked at, they were put on a pedestal.
Role model.
But then, yes, but then that, I think nowadays things are changing and people are realizing that it's very important to maintain a work-life balance. And I'm seeing a lot of employers and a lot of corporates are changing that trend. And it's actually very beneficial for their workforce and for the innovation and engagement of their employees.
Yes, and this takes me to the final question. How can employers measure the impact of preventive medicine initiatives?
Yes, this is through regular screenings and collecting data. So basically just having a health risk assessment, collect your data, design the intervention program, evaluate the program 3 months, 6 months, 9 months down the line.
Yes.
You should just have the indicators to help you gather the data. And in that case, it would be biometric screenings and checking employees' cholesterol and lipid profile, their hemoglobin A1C levels, regular checkups, making sure this data, compare the data before, during, and after the intervention of those programs, and seeing a reduction in these numbers is a huge success. And that's how we can measure the impact of those programs. And it'll give us an idea whether what we did, was it successful, was it beneficial, or maybe we need to tweak that a little bit, or maybe we need to redesign that. So it's a journey, but I believe it's beneficial for the employee and the employer.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Thank you, Dr. Lamia, so much. It was, as usual, a very beneficial and informative podcast. Thank you so much for all the info you shared with us today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sarah. The pleasure is all mine. I had a great time as always, and thank you, MedSynapse, for having me for the second time.
Thank you. Have a great day.